today comes from the 29th chapter of Jeremiah. These are the words of the letter that the prophet Jeremiah sent from Jerusalem to the remaining elders among the exiles, and to the priests, the prophets, and all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had taken into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, to all the exiles whom I have sent into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon: build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Take wives and have sons and daughters. Take wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, that they may bear sons and daughters. Multiply there and do not decrease. But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. For thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel: do not let the prophets and the diviners who are among you deceive you, and do not listen to the dreams that they dream. For it is a lie that they are prophesying to you in my name. I did not send them, says the Lord. For thus says the Lord: only when Babylon's 70 years are completed will I visit you, and I will fulfill to you my promise and bring you back to this place. For surely I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for your welfare and not for harm, to give you a future with hope. Then when you call upon me and come and pray to me, I will hear you. When you search for me, you will find me. If you seek me with all your heart, I will let you find me, says the Lord. And I will restore your fortunes and gather you from all the nations and all the places where I have driven you, says the Lord. And I will bring you back to the place from which I sent you into exile. Word of God, word of life. Thanks be to God.
In the name of our Lord. Amen. So we just celebrated Thanksgiving, and we also had an apple cup, which we'll try to forget about as quickly as possible. But both of those events caused some people to do something. How many people went to some place other than Pullman for Thanksgiving?
Went to Colton.
Colton? Oh, to the ends of the earth. Yeah. And how many people went over to the Apple Cup and then got back here as quickly as possible? No, they're probably still on the road. One of the fun things that happened was, I think it was on Monday, that I was kind of yakking with some of the people, and I was talking with some of the quilting ladies. And one of the quilting ladies said the funniest thing, because we were talking about where we were going to go for Thanksgiving. And she said, "Pastor, I would rather have a root canal than go on a trip." And I thought, wow, okay. Well, that's not exactly necessarily the way that I think, but I can understand, because she was explaining. She said, it is such a pain in the tush. She said you have to gather everything together, you have to put it into a bag, you have to make sure, there's really no such thing as a vacation, is there? You have to do all the work that you would have done on vacation beforehand. You have to double it up and put everything into a bag, and you get into a car, you have to make sure the car is ready, and then you go to a place that is somewhat, careful here, that is somewhat unknown to you. And she said, I like to know where things are. I like to be able to wake up in my own bed. I like to be able to walk and know where the bathroom is, where the kitchen is, where everything is. And I think there's a part of us that can understand that. Yeah, trips can be fun, vacations can be fun, but they also can be an adventure. Things happen when you're on a vacation or when you're on a trip. Things happen on the road. Carl was talking about the fact that he was coming back from a vacation down in northern, and he realized as he was coming through Washtenaw, just that section before Washtenaw, if we can ever find out who was the contractor that made the road, that did the surface of the road between the intersection of 395 and Washtenaw, because it's like, have you ever been on that? Well, Carl was driving back on that. He was alone, and horror horrors realized that his cell phone was kaput. And he thought, oh no. If there's something wrong with my car, I am absolutely nowhere. And what will I do? I could sit out here for years before people could discover me if something was wrong with my car. Well, we worry about things like that, and it kind of sits in the back of our brain. So maybe necessarily going on a trip is not always the best thing. And yet, there's something good about knowing that we are not completely settled in. You see, the Jewish people had settled in. They had built up a cozy corner for themselves in Jerusalem, in Israel, and in Judah. They had built up a cozy corner for themselves. They felt like they were protected. They felt like they were well surrounded by all of the quilts that the quilters could possibly make. And they were comfortable. And then not only were they comfortable, but they got kind of cocky. Because that's kind of what happens next oftentimes, is that you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh yeah, I'm so cool, nothing could possibly, and they were starting to feel just a little bit full of themselves, like they were so neat. And then along came Babylon. And Babylon brought them down. Not only brought them down, but Babylon, and like what I was talking about, the difference between Babylon and Egypt was that Egypt wanted slaves. Babylon could have cared less. They had probably plenty of slaves already. But what Babylon wanted to do is that they wanted to make their capital city into the absolute coolest place in the world. The bestest place that could ever be imagined. And so what they did is that every country that they conquered, they took the top 10%, all the musicians, all the philosophers, all the mathematicians, all of the best people from that society, they would take them and ship them off to Babylon. Now, there's a problem, because then that happens to Judah, happens to the Jewish people. And now they find themselves in Babylon, but it is really different. We like to kind of equate them, like the Exodus and Egypt and slavery and the exile, but it's really different. Because this is not a slavery of bondage. This is a slavery of seduction. Because it's just so cool. They got themselves comfortable. And notice, interestingly in the text, what does God say in that? Guess who sent you off there? Me, says God. You got too comfortable, too cocky. You forgot that you kind of need to be a people who are a little bit light on your feet and ready to move and change and shift. And the second you start to settle in, bad things start to happen. Seduced by the culture. Now you would think, wouldn't you, that there could be two possible solutions to these people who are in that culture. They could go there and, try to imagine that this is Babylon. You guys are all kind of act cool, act really neat. Oh, you do this? Okay. Anyway, and here are the Jewish people. Hello, Jewish people. Now, you have some options. All these really cool wicked people are around you, but what are you going to do? I think that I am going to wall myself off from all of them. I am not going to have anything to do with any of them. Anything that they have in their culture that is at all neat or positive, no way. I am going to pray for the demise of Babylon. Every day of my life, every breath that I take, I can't wait until Babylon crumbles. I am not going to vote. No way. I am not going to go to a movie in Babylon because I might be participating in what they do. That's one way. The other way, what the heck? Here we are. We might as well have a great time. We might as well really dive in and really enjoy the best of what Babylon has to offer. Now, God has a third way. You would think that God would have said, wall yourself off, right? But he doesn't. God says, build a house, make gardens, enjoy, pray. Pray for the country that you are finding yourself in. But learn from it. There's the twist. Learn from it, and while you are living in that country, never forget who and whose you really are. And shock of shocks, one of the things that you will learn, says God, is that you thought that I lived in Palestine, you thought that I lived in the temple, you thought that I lived up on top of that hill. Guess what? Boom! I'm here too. You thought that you left me behind, but I am also here. You know, we hear these stories and we think to ourselves, what's that called, girls? Raspberry. Yeah. These stories are so old. Have any of you ever felt like responding in any of the ways that I just talked about? I do. All the time. Oh, I'll just let it go. I'll just start living according to... Have you ever felt, any of you, like sometimes you're a stranger in your own land? Do you remember back at the election? Any of you feel like a little bit of a stranger in your own land? A lot of people talk to me about, wow, it's just like, I'm beginning to wonder, do I really... Have any of you ever felt like maybe you don't quite fit in? That's the feeling that they had in exile. St. Paul will capture it a little bit later when he says, you are to be in the world, but not of the world. Interesting. You see, God is almost telling us, and telling us continually, that you are people who are on the move. It's good for you. As strange as it sounds, it's good for you to pack up your bags, get outside of your comfort zone, and head off into territory that makes you uncomfortable. To head off into territory that gives you this sense of risk. Because it keeps you alive, and it keeps you humble, and it keeps you looking. Keeps you looking for me, says God. Because the second you start to settle in, and lest you think that this is just something that either happens to people physically, it's in your brains too. One of the biggest issues that I think that we have to deal with as not just Lutherans, but as traditional churches, and also not just traditional churches, but the evangelicals run into it too, is that they feel like they're on the move, and then they find themselves in a place, and what do? They settle in. And they don't just settle in physically, they settle in with their brains too. And they settle in so much that they stop moving and changing and looking for new possibilities. I want to use an example. And I know that Trinity loves to vote on everything. And we're not going to do that this time. But just think about the Lord's Prayer. You're probably thinking, what? What in the world is the Lord's Prayer? Well, because we're settled, right? Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. We're used to that. Or, if we were really brave, we modernized a little bit and we say, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Or we think to ourselves, okay, I'm really taking that big step and I'm going to say, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done. But think about what we're saying. And the fact that even though we make those little tiny changes, how far outside our comfort zone are we really stepping? Previous congregation, I haven't had the guts to do it yet here because I have a feeling that we'd be like, but the Message came out a few years ago. Message, which is not a translation, they don't even, but the Message tries to kind of cut through all the language, that comfortable language that we use. You see, comfortable language that doesn't mean anything anymore to us, except that it feels good. And the Message tried to cut through all of that comfortable language, and I thought, oh, this could be really fun. Let's do the Lord's Prayer using the words from the Message. What a disaster. People were completely up in arms. And I have to say that even for me, when I first read it, I was kind of going, really? Because it said, Our Father, holy be your name. And then it said things like, instead of, give us this day our daily bread. Does anybody, I see once again kind of comfort language? Give us each day our daily bread. And the Message changed it to, give us 3 square meals. Imagine doing the Lord's Prayer and saying, instead of give us this day our daily bread, saying, Lord, give us 3 square meals. Oh, Lord, it was a disaster. Or, thine is the kingdom. Okay, today is Christ the King Sunday too. Thine is the kingdom. Okay, we all say it, but what does it mean? How many people here have supervisors? Okay, or spouses? Okay, imagine what it would be like. You know, I could be in trouble for this, but imagine if Linda were to say, Wes, I really want you to mow the back lawn or clean. And imagine what would happen if I said, well, thine is the kingdom. We don't use that language anymore. Now, okay, spouses is a little, because if I were to say you're the boss, that would probably go over just as big. But we don't use that kind of, so when we're saying to God, thine is the kingdom, what is it we really are saying? You see how we get comfortable and sometimes we need to be nudged off of our comfort place? Thine is the kingdom. It means, Lord, you're in charge. You're the boss. You're in charge. I think that I will try to model my life to the best of my ability, to the best of what I understand, to model my life in a way that I think would be pleasing to you, and it's in sync and in harmony with you. That's what it means to say, thine is the kingdom. Always pushing, always nudging, always remembering that the second we think that we're settled, the second that we think that we have everything within our grasp, that God is there going, I think it's maybe time to shake things up a little bit. Not just because change is good, but because change and remembering that we are a people on a journey is something that we need to keep our brains sharp, to keep our souls open, to keep from just binding ourselves up in our own thoughts, in our own expectations, or in our own lack of expectations. In many ways, we are all people in exile. Here we are, in this society. Now, And a lot of churches do this, where they just kind of also buy into the society. What do you think the prosperity gospel is? Prosperity gospel makes 0 sense in Africa. It makes a brickload of sense here. Because God really does want you to have that new car. God really does want you to have that house with gold-plated toilet seats. In other places, it makes absolutely no sense at all. Because you see, we have been seduced. And we're starting to take our cues from society. God says, don't wall yourself off. But remember who you are. Remember whose you are. And more than anything else, wherever you find yourself, go ahead. Settle into the community. Make houses, make gardens, make yards, make friends. But always remember that you're a little bit different. And that you're looking at things in a different way. And that you take your cues from God. And then live that out in the society that you find yourself, rather than flipping it the other way around. Always looking, always yearning, always expecting just a little bit more. I absolutely love the sentence that Jeremiah gives us. Because what does God say? If you, no matter where you find yourself, no matter what situation you find yourself in, if you search for me with all your heart, I will let you find me. What a cool way of being a person of faith. That no matter where, no matter what, no matter who, that we are seekers, every one of us. We haven't reached our destination, not by a long shot, but we are